Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Saturday, October 18th, a little after 8:15 at night. And this is our weekly video where we put out our week look ahead and payment guesstimate for LFGY. That is our YieldMax crypto industry option income fund. And we're also going to throw in a little bit of coverage for Blocks, the Nicholas crypto income ETF. So a reminder, I'm on X at ETF_inspector1. Follow me on there as well. I got 1,600 followers there. And we hit 4,900 and then somebody backed out and dropped us back down to 48.99. So a lot more on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube and you have X, come over there and follow me. I post shout outs when people give to the channel, like most recently Phenom Yar, and then I also post when videos are being released, so you can join the live chat. I let you know pertinent information to the channel, like going to start covering Coney, Misty, NVIDIA, and Tesla in detail, daily coverage, and I also repost announcements for dividend distributions. All right, so let's take a look. It felt like a rough week, but if we were being specific to LFGY, it really wasn't too bad. We dropped 2.26% over the course of the week, starting around 37.28. That'd be the open on Monday, and closing 36.44. There was a 58-cent distribution in the middle there. So that actually came out of the share price. So a portion of that is not actual drop from the fund's performance. So we're moving up Monday, kind of hit a reset, but then moved up great on Tuesday, declared on Tuesday, and then ex-dividend Wednesday. So you should have had that 58-cent drop there, but they were strong and moving up. Then the market kind of took a turn, and crypto specifically started really getting beat up, dropping by the end of the week, but not too terrible. All right, when we take a look at how the trading went for the week, there was approximately 220 trades over the course of the 5 business days market open. There was nothing on the 14th, so they traded on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then finally Friday. Now, if you watch the Friday video, that's why this looks different. I had to enter all these manually. The download came out, and instead of being a download, it popped us over to this page, which you can't click, you can't highlight, you can't copy and paste, nothing. So I wasn't going to sit there and type all that information, so I just typed which underlying it was, whether it was a buy or a sale, the quantity, and the price, just so we'd get all of our numbers down. But we're going to refer back to that sheet here in a minute when we start looking at our IV estimates, or no, our week look ahead. I'm sorry, for our options. But as far as that options trading goes, on Monday, they had a credit or profit of $59,000. Again, Tuesday, there was no trades. Wednesday, they profited $266,000 from trading. Thursday, $513,000 credit. And Friday, they finished it off with almost $1.5 million credit. So no losing days as far as realized gains and losses on trading, and an overall $2.3 million credit or profit options trading for the week. So the first way we make our estimate is just the income. So we divide the income by the quantity of outstanding shares, and we come up with 39.4 cents. So that is pretty decent. We think it's going to be a little more than that, but that's a nice start. We could call that our bottom. We know we're going to get paid at least that, if not more. All right, before we flip pages, we can look at how the underlying shares performed as a whole each day of the week, increasing 8.1 million on Monday. Now, these are unrealized gains and losses because this is just what the share values did throughout the week as the stock prices went up and down. Tuesday, it was a decrease of 640,000. Wednesday, an increase of 5.1 million. Thursday, decrease of 10.6 million, and Friday, a decrease of 2.3 million. Overall, decreasing by $421,000 on the week, so not too bad. All right, so if we can't use the income estimate as if like a realistic, that's going to be our number, then next they tell us to check out the IV. To do that, I go on Saturdays to Market Chameleon. I enter each of the underlyings in here one by one, look up the updated 30-day IV, enter it in here, and then note whether it went up or down for the week. I've got a weighting system so I can run a calculation to put together a weighted average for the IVs within the fund. So we'll mention the weight as well. Starting off, BitMine Immersion, about 2.2% of the money, increased in implied volatility by 113 to 113.8. BitDeer increased up over 122% with 6% of the money. CleanSpark, just under 6% of the money, decreased but still real high, 122%. Coinbase, over 7% of the money. It was a drop, but it's still nice and high, 70.6%. Core Scientific, 5% of the money, increased to over 106% IV. Circle Internet Group dropped to 87.1% implied volatility with 2.3% of the money. iShares Ethereum Trust ETF went to is 3.6% of the money. It increased to 80.3% IV. Galaxy Digital increased up over 103% with 4.5% of the money. GameStop's got 2.7% invested in them with a 44.7% IV. That's a drop. We got another drop with Robinhood to 74.4, holding 6.7% of the money. Hut 8 Corp coming in with 8.6% of the money, increased to 120.7%. IBIT, 8.2% of the money, increased to 49.3%. Mara was 6.2% of the money, increased to 103.4%. I'm going to take a quick sidetrack. I think Hut might be the biggest holding within the fund at 8.6. And it is. So Hut 8 Corp is the actual biggest holding within the fund. Mercado Libre just under 3%. 51.4% IV is a drop. Strategy increased almost to 70% IV with 5.7% of the money. NU Holdings, 4.3% invested there. 48.6 is an increase in IV. Nvidia dropped in IV to 42.4 with less than 2% of the money. Opera's got 3.4% invested in them, just under 50%. That's a drop. Just under 52% for PayPal is a drop as well, 2.3% of the money. Riot has 6.4% of the money, increasing to over 105%. And finally, Block increased to a little over 65% with 3.4% of the money. So on average, out of the holding, the average is 4.76. So we see we've got a spread of anywhere from less than 2% to 8.6%. So not necessarily evenly allocated. But as far as implied volatilities, 12 of the underlyings increased this week and 9 decreased. When that factors into our calculation, it was an actual increase week over week. Last week we ended at 80.83%. This week we're ending at 80.71%. All right, we use that number, excuse me, with our closing price on Friday to come up with our IV estimate. And we come up with 59.36 cents. So then we kind of take that information and we look again, not again, but we look at how the stock performed or the share price performed over the week. Down a little, they did pay 58%. The implied volatility increased this week. We made a decent amount of income. So I had to come up with a guesstimate from there, and I'm keeping it very close. 59 cents is my guesstimate for the week. That would be a 83.76% annual yield. So that's That's higher than average. On average, they're paying around 65%, but they did pay in the 80s last week, and their IV increased even more. So looking to keep that very close to what their estimated IV is. So I'm guessing we're going to be real close to last week's payment. 59 cents is what we came up with. Okay, now when we take a look at the week ahead, now, like I said, or maybe I didn't say it, I said it over in the Ulti video, the holdings download is also not working. So we got all kinds of issues with the new website. It's very frustrating for content creators. We've all been talking to each other. When you download the holdings, especially on a Saturday night, it should be updated. Usually it would get updated by Friday night around 8:30. But when we open it, that's not even the right one. It comes up like that, still yesterday's date, and that is the start of yesterday. So we're still, when we look at our sheet, we're still looking at things that some have expired, like BitDeer for 1017. So we're going to have to flip back and forth to look at where calls were sold for the week ahead. We won't have percentages on them, but at least we know the numbers. Bitmine Immersion closed just under 50. They sold calls at 57. They're 14.3% out of the money. We go to BitDeer next. We're going to take a look. They sold their calls at 25 for this week. Stock closed at 24.02. Next we have CleanSpark. Stock closed at 19.53. CleanSpark sold their calls at $20.50. Coinbase, these have already been rolled, so these numbers are right. Closing at 336. They sold calls at 362.50. They're 7.8% out of the money. Core Scientific, we got some for the 17th that are already expired, so we'll look at them in a second. But they have already rolled some 22.50s. They're 18.4% out. Let's see what else they sold for Core Scientific. Sold calls at 20. All right, we've got Circle Internet Group. These are already good for the 24th. They closed at 126.49. Their calls are sold at 145, 14.6% out of the money. iShares Ethereum Trust, 28.94 closing price, 12.3% out of the money on their 3250s that are sold. Galaxy Digital closed at 37.78. We've got to check the sheet. They sold calls at 42, so what's that? $4+ out of the money. GameStop, these are legit. 2350s are sold, closed at 2307. That's 1.8% out of the money. Robinhood closed at 129.91. They sold 140s. They're 7.7% out. Hut 8 Corp closed at 48.46. We've got to check here. Hut closed selling calls at 52. iBit doesn't trade options. Mara's already rolled with a 1957 closing. They sold 2350s. They're 20% out of the money. MBTX has a call spread sold for a credit, selling the 270s. They're 7% out of the money. And buying a put spread, debit put spread, 255s are now in the money by 1.2%. So these are continuing to increase in value. They expire at the end of the year. Mercado Libre closed just under 2025. Their calls are sold at 21.15. They're 4.4% out of the money. Strategy closed at a little under 290. Their calls are sold at 312.50. That's 7.8% out. NU Holdings closed at $15. They've got 15s sold for next week. They're obviously dead at the money. And let's see if they did anything else. Nope, that's not the right button. NU sold calls at 15. So they are starting the money right at the starting the week right at the money. Any upward movement will not be able to be captured. They're going to have to close and roll those. But if they trade sideways or down, then they got the most amount of premium possible. NVIDIA closed at 183.22. Their calls are sold at 182.50, so they will be starting the week in the money by 0.3%. Opera closed at 16.11 on Friday. They have 18s that are rolled out to next, the 21st of November, 11.7% out of the money. Let's see if they did anything else when they closed those. Opera sold some 18s. 18, so they just added to this position. PayPal's already been rolled. Their 67.41 closing price on Friday, $70 sold calls or short calls, 3.84% out of the money. Riot Platforms, they've got some that we got to check on, and they also have some 21s rolled to next week, 4.8% out, closing just over 20. Let's see what else they did. Riot sold some $20.50. So they'll be even closer to the money, only out by 47 cents. Finally, Block, same thing. We got to check on one line, but we do have some 77s already sold, closing at 75.20. They're 2.3% out. What else did they do for Block? Sold some 77s. So they just added to that position. All right, so this is, again, since the downloads aren't working, we don't know. That $75,000 increase, or 75,000 share increase, happened on Thursday. We don't know what happened on Friday. So whether it stayed the same, went up, or went down, that's obviously going to also affect our net assets. Realistically, we should be adding $1.4 million to that number because that's what they brought in trading on Friday. But without having access to the information, we're kind of blind here. We do know that the NAV is going to be close to but under 36.44 because LFGY always trades at a slight premium. We can't actually use this number where the average sold call is 9% out of the money because half of the calls we had to go look at a separate sheet. We don't have them on our spreadsheet, so we can't really use that number. So that's what we got. So quick recap, LFGY, our guesstimate for this week is around 59 cents. Now, we'll talk a little bit about Blocks. Now, Blocks doesn't give us access to their daily trades, so we don't know what they made for the week, anything like that. But I do like to go over it like at least once a week because we got a lot of people that like Blocks. It's very similar to LFGY where you're going to see a whole lot of the same underlyings. You're going to see similar strategies, but more strategies. Sometimes you got collars, sometimes you're selling put spreads, sometimes you're selling call spreads, sometimes all of the above. So I do like it a lot. We'll see a lot of the same names. And before you start thinking that, hey, these guys are way better, if you just take a look at the team, Jay Petrocelli, Scott Snyder, it's the same team. So they all work for Title. So Title helps with XFUNDS, Title helps with Defiance, Title helps with YieldMax. So you're getting a lot of the same people. Obviously, David Nicholas is the main guy, the portfolio manager. That's why it's Nicholas Wealth. So they do trade things a little different over here. Again, information outdated by a day or so. It's not updating on this one as well. If we download the holdings, open it up, this should say today's date or later, and it still shows the 17th. So that means the last time that it updated was leading into the 17th. So this is old information. And that's why our spreadsheet's going to have some expired options. I have highlighted them in this light orange so we know to ignore them. But we've got BitMine, Immersion. We've already talked about the share prices all the time, so now we'll just talk. They've got a put spread sold here, selling the 53s, buying the 50s. Cypher Mining. We see them in one of the other YieldMax funds. But so they've got, let's see, a couple different things. Selling calls at 19.50, buying puts at 16, selling puts at 18.50, buying puts at 19.50, and selling puts at 21.50. So this one here is a put spread, and then this is kind of I don't know what you'd call that strategy. So we'll just keep moving. I don't claim to know everything for sure. Coinbase selling a put spread with the 345. So as long as the price stays above the 345, they win that trade. Circle Internet Group. Let's see what we're doing. So you're going to match up the amount of contracts. So selling calls at 140, or selling 141 calls at 165, buying puts at 140. So that's a collar strategy. Then they've got a put spread right here selling the 131 portion of it, and another put spread selling the 155 portion of it. So that one's, they're in trouble on that one. Obviously, stock price at 128, and they've got a put spread selling the 150s, 155s, but you're limiting yourself to what you can lose on a put spread, in this case, $10 per share. CoreWeave, obviously these 1017s are expired, but the rest are for this coming Friday. And they've got a call spread selling the 145s and a put spread selling the 125s. So in that case, this is actually a debit put spread because they purchased the 134 and sold the 125. So they actually win this trade by the stock price dropping. That's an odd strategy on that one. iShares Ethereum Trust ETF selling a call spread with the 3250 as the short leg. Fidelity-wise Origin Bitcoin Fund. Most of these have been closed and rolled, so we'll just have to wait till the downloads catch up before we know what they are. But they do have a call spread selling the 99s. Galaxy Digital. Let's see, we've got a collar strategy selling $45 calls and buying $38 puts as protection. And then they also have a put spread where they are selling the 42s and buying 39s. We've got HODL, Van Eck Bitcoin ETF, $21 million sitting in that. No options. Robinhood, just a put spread, selling the 138s. Hut 8 Corp. We've got a collar strategy selling $49 calls and buying $41.50 puts as protection, and then selling a put spread as well with the 54s as the short leg. We're almost to the bottom. Iron Limited, most of these expired Friday and we need new information, but we do have a call spread selling the 66s and a put spread, which is actually a debit put spread, purchasing the 58s. So again, you win that trade by the share price dropping. Odd way to play it if you're going to hold the shares. Mara Holdings. Let's see, we've got a put spread where we're selling the 2350s, and then we've got a call spread selling the 275s and another call spread selling the 280s. Strategy, just a put spread selling the 30250s. Nvidia, just a put spread selling the 18250s. Riot Platforms, we got a couple different things. A collar strategy selling $24 calls and buying $20 puts for protection. And then we've got a put spread where we sell the 2050s and buy the 19s, and then another put spread selling the 23s and buying the 21s. So this put spread's maxed out with the share price at $19.55. This one's kind of sitting in the middle. It's these 2050s are $1.95 in the money. While these purchased 19s are out of the money. And then in our collar strategy, you're winning those sold calls, and the puts are gaining in value because they are in the money as well. They are purchased puts. Last but not least, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. We don't have any of the updated information. We're still showing the expired calls, so our puts. So we can probably guess that they sold new put spread for this coming week. Before we switch over to some of the other numbers, I do like to point out that the three main holdings within the fund equate to almost 40% of the weight, and that is Van Eck Bitcoin ETF 14.7%, Fidelity Wise Origin Bitcoin Fund 14.59%, and iShares Ethereum Trust ETF 9.3%. So there are, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 holdings within the fund besides the options, and the top three are almost 40%. Our most up-to-date information is showing 5,950,000 outstanding shares. If we total up all our market values, and obviously these aren't up to date because this is as of the start Friday, not as of close, since their holdings download's not updating. But you were sitting at $148 million in assets under management. They just recently celebrated $100 million. People are buying into this fund. They like it. That would put the NAV at $24.91. So we obviously know the NAV is not $24.91. So there's a couple different things that could happen. This net assets or assets under management could be lower, which would drop the NAV, or more people could have bought into the fund, which would increase these outstanding shares, and then dividing 148 by a larger number would equal a smaller number. But I just promise you, it's not worth $24.91 a share if it was trading for $24.70. The whales wouldn't let that happen. That's free money. Okay, most recently, they announced 18.09 cents per share. It's showing as 38% now, but that's because after they announced it, the share price dropped, which will increase your annual yield to 38%. If you take a look at their announcement, they do show it was 36% at the time of the announcement. And so it really it really doesn't make much of, so that's actually, I think they got paid Monday. Are they a Monday payer? Yes. So now we just went X again this past Friday the 17th, and they will pay on Monday the 20th. And I've got my guesstimate, but it's really not that big of a deal because they basically try to pay 36%. So we can guess 17.1 cent distribution. Hold on a minute. I'm confusing myself. So that came out on the 16th. They declared on the 16th. Yeah, so that's what they're going to get paid. That's what everybody's getting paid on Monday if you had the shares on Friday. So now I'm just putting out this guess for what will get announced next Thursday and get paid on the following. But so obviously that's going to change as the share price changes. I don't know where they draw the line to make their number. So far they've paid out $2.5173, and the average has been a little under 17 cents per share. All right, so that's all I have for you. Thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll catch you in the next video.